Oh, thank you so much. What? It's Clearfield County in the house. Clearfield County came to party. That's they ever say California, no, it's Clearfield County came to party. Nobody. Oh, okay, wait, there's something I'm supposed to do here. Control Shift C. Gotta make that jump. And now I'm supposed to boom, there it is. Subtitle, I need a round of applause for that, because that was some serious technical stuff right there. So anyway, yes, I want to thank Ms. Kelly for the introduction. My name is Chuck Herring, and I am here all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Honored, yeah, definitely, Pittsburgh in the house, absolutely. I'm here with my beautiful bride of 30 plus years, the best Dr. Herring, right back there, Dr. Christine Herring, she's here. She's going to be a part of the panel right after this. We're going to be doing a panel discussion, so please come down. We're going to do some amazing things with y'all. But I'm flat out honored and excited to be here today. And I'm going to tell you why and how I am so excited to be here today. The reason I'm excited is I'm actually supposed to be in Helsinki. But I chose to come to Hershey. And the reason why I came to Hershey is because I'm with my people. There's governments, like last year I went to Germany to talk about this stuff, Handprints, footprints, and so on and so forth. And then the Helsinki people came along and like, hey, we heard you went to Germany. We want you to come over here and talk to them. And I was like, yeah, I can, I would, blah, 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 blah. But I gave my word that I would be here with y'all today. And so, absolutely, yeah, you can clap for that. Because integrity rules today, right? I gave my word I would be here, so I'm going to be here, and we're going to have way more fun than them folks over in Helsinki because they don't know how to get down like Clearfield County. So, so this is the title of our session, Handprints, Footprints, a framework for equity and inclusion. As you can see, this is actually one of the large glass windows, and it's called our AC hallway. We call it our Skyway in the high school where I work at South Fayette Township School District. And you can see that there are handprints all over there. Think about this. We have high school students finger painting. How dope is that? So they put these handprints up here, and so you can see what's going on. And we're going to talk all about this. And I put this up here, AIU 8, and I should have put AIU 13. That's my bad. But I called it Handprints, Footprints, but what it should have been called is we don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us. How many people have seen Beauty and the Beast? So we know the song, right? How many people remember a couple of years ago in school board meetings when parents were just going bonkers? Did they look like this? Right? Right? Yeah, so I'm the person that came in and kind of like, easy, y'all, easy. We're all here, we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team for real. So, because a little bit about me, I'm a kindergarten teacher by trade. Yeah. And they walk up in there like, kindergarten teacher? Yeah, kindergarten cop, me. I'll be back, right? So, kindergarten teacher by trade. So, I'm really skilled at taking big concepts and distilling them down so that 5-year-olds can understand. And so what I'm going to do right now is, because I know that you guys get it for the most part, but I'm going to give you a little bit of skill, some language, some things to do to be able to have conversations with folks when they're coming at you with these ideas like, we're out to get kids. You're out to get my kids. Like, what are you talking about? School is different than when I was in 4th grade. Well, you were in 4th grade 30 years ago. I would hope it is different, right? Right? I mean, seriously, people would just, well, I want them to get, I've had all kinds of conversations. I want my kids to learn math, science, language arts, and social studies. I'm like, so first of all, social studies has the word social in it. That's the first thing. Secondly, so you don't want us to give them any social emotional stuff? I thought there was a book. Matter of fact, I know there was a book because I taught it. I taught kindergarten. Everything I needed to know, I learned in kindergarten, right? I learned how to share. I learned how to be kind. I learned all these great things. So, but people would come in and say, we don't want our kids to learn that stuff. So I'm like, okay, great. So when your child, whatever grade they are, let's say 5th grade, is having some drama on the playground, and they come into the building crying, I'm just going to set them in the office and call you. Come get your kid. Come get your kid. That doesn't even make any sense, does it? So when you say that to parents, though, because they've never thought about it that way, when you say that to them, then they're like, oh, I don't want you to do that. I want you to help them problem solve. Well, why are you yelling at me then? Right? Why are you doing this? So just easy stuff that we're going to do. So here we go. Our learning goals for today. Our learning goals, learn a definition of equity, inclusion, and belonging, handprints and footprints. Understand how handprints can help overcome or offset an equity and inclusion and belonging footprint, and introduce a framework to support equity, inclusion, and belonging in our schools. So, I'm an old dude, but I'm a young old dude, as you can see. One of my favorite movies growing up was a movie called Smokey and the Bandit. Anybody know that movie? Oh yeah, see, y'all know it. And you're all much younger than me. So, I'm just gonna hit it with this. We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So we're gonna make this happen. So as kindergartners, most people are kindergartners when you're talking to them about this work. I guarantee you that we can get them. The great thing about being in kindergarten as an adult, though, is that it doesn't take a whole year to get through kindergarten. We can get them from kindergarten to graduating from elementary school in this hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to show you that right now, all right? So repeat after me. I can be as good as the best. I can be as good as the best. Even better than the rest. Even better than the rest. So don't test me. Because I ain't scared. Now high five your neighbor and say, don't be scared. Don't be scared. And guess what? Even if you are scared, we're going to do it scared anyway. And the reason why we're going to do it is because we have to make sure that when we're in these spaces where people are attacking us for our knowledge base, for our pedagogical practices, for what things that we know are right for kids, we can stand on our square and be like, look, I've gone to the dentist 2 times a year for the last 50 years. And I don't claim to know how to put fillings in. So what we know is what we know. We're the ones who have gone to school, who have done the work, who have gotten extra degrees, who are in the trenches every day, who are making this stuff happen. So we know what we know is right. And when you know what you know is right, you don't have to be scared. But if you are scared, what? Do it scared. Because you're still right. That's the main thing, okay? So now, and I have notes up here because I tend to go off on tangents. So just don't mind me because I can be, they didn't have such thing as ADD back in the 70s. But I think I definitely have it. So let's go ahead over our rules of engagement. Number 1, expect to experience discomfort. And what do I mean by that? I'm about to take you on a roller coaster ride. And that roller coaster, when you get on the roller coaster, they strap you in. But the roller coaster is really set up to make you feel like you're going to die. So I'm going to make you feel like you're going to die, but I'm really not going to kill you. You're just going to come back, and you're going to get off this roller coaster and be like, let's do it again, right? All right. Listen with curiosity. So many people, especially in the westernized world, listen with the intent to reply. We're just listening to find that gap so we can shoot our shot, right? I'm going to ask you to just listen with curiosity. All right, so you can actually, because typically when you listen with curiosity, things are in spaces where you don't necessarily think they are, and then you hear them, you're like, oh, that was the answer to my question right there. All right. No blame, no shame, no guilt. I'm not going to get on this one right now because I'm going to go back to this later. But this right here, this ground rule, was the thing that really saved me, my district, the whole 9 yards from that whole wave of critical race theory, wokeism, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, what are they talking about? I was really confused. But I'll tell you all about that too. Again, I told you you're going to experience a little discomfort. And expect and accept the lack of closure. We didn't get to this space in an hour. We're not going to fix it in an hour. But you know, one of my favorite movies, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Death to Smoochie. Am I the only one? You know about Death? See, I like her. Death to Smoochie. Everybody needs to watch it. Robin Williams and Ed Norton Jr. Played Barney-like characters. Ed Norton Jr.'s character said something along the lines of, "We can't change the world." That's right. You can make a dent in it. That's right. There it is. So that's the classic line right there from the movie. So those are our rules of engagement. We can't change the world for number 4, but we can make a dent. So for those of you who didn't sit where there's a Post-it note, y'all can't play. Kelly, can you give me 30 seconds? Don't start it yet. So I'm going to ask everybody to hold up their Post-it note. Just hold it up. Make sure you have it. And if you don't have one, I'm sorry. I asked you to move to where there were Post-it notes, and y'all said no, so you can't play the game. Okay? So we have our Post-it notes, right? So this right here, if you could be an animal, choose to be an animal, what animal would it be and why? So now what I'm going to do is, you have 30 seconds to tear a Post-it note into the shape of that animal. And the 30 seconds are going to start right now. Go.
25. 15. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time.
All right, hold them up, hold them up, hold them up. All right, here we go. You got it held up perfect. All right, so let me go ahead. Holy smokes. What is, everybody stop knocking. Stop knocking. I'm going to go ahead and Red Robin. Thank you. You, ma'am, what is your name? I know exactly what that is from all the way up here. Hold that up so everybody can see it. Can you guys see that? Holy smokes. I'm embarrassed. I've been doing this forever. This is my chart. So, but let me ask you a question. That was fun, right? But it was a little bit what? Stressful. You felt a little bit of pressure and anxiety, right? That's what we're supposed to do. That's what this work is. It's going to give you those little things, right? But what happens is, think about it this way. I don't know if she could ever be better than that. I don't know. But do you think that if you had an additional 5 minutes and some scissors and a pencil, that you could have made a much better animal? Yeah. Or do you think that if you had an additional 30 seconds, you could have done it better? And another Post-it note. Yeah, of course. Why? Because it's all about the reps. It's all about continuing to do it. We call that progress, not perfection. You're not going to be perfect at this. But what is the saying? Anything worth doing well is worth doing badly first. Everybody, educators, we tell our kids all the time, it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. And then we get up there, I don't want to make a mistake. Oh, I can't do that. That's not the way it works, people. If you're going to talk about it, you got to what? Be about it. You got to be about it. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. So, a little bit about me. Oh, first, progress, not perfection. This was me. Beginning of the summer, I made a plan that I was going to learn how to do a Rubik's Cube. Did you see that kid, like back in June, do a Rubik's Cube in like 3.4 seconds? I was like, Rubik's Cube came out when I was like 9 years old. It's been 46 years. I couldn't do a Rubik's Cube. but I said, I bet you I'll get me a Rubik's Cube done between June and August. And I did this first week of July. I'm super proud of myself. Well, I'm not that fast. Look at that. Go, Chuck, go. You're doing it. You got it. Almost. Got it. Where's it at? Making it happen. It's close. I did it. That was it. But it was incremental steps. I was frustrated. I was mad. I was like, this stupid thing. But I picked it back up, got it, started doing it some more, and now I could do a Rubik's Cube. Not in 3.4 seconds or whatever. I could do a Rubik's Cube in about 3 to 5 minutes, which is still pretty dope for somebody who couldn't do a Rubik's Cube May 31st. Right? So that's what I want to say. It's all about progress, not perfection. All right, so now a little bit about me. We're not going to do turn and talk because I don't have time. About me. It's all about me anyway. So, so let me go ahead and show you. That's a handsome dude. Who am I? Who's Chuck Herring? Chuck Herring is a husband. Chuck Herring is a father. So let's go ahead. How many of you have spouses or in significant relationships? All right, good stuff. How many of you have children? Okay. I'm a grandfather. G-pop. Actually, that's short. She just turned 4 a couple of weeks ago. And that's short for the gregarious P.O.P. So she just calls me G-pop. Or sometimes she says, gregarious. I'm a son. How many of you are children of someone? How many of you are educators? Because I think we're all educators in some way, right? I'm a friend. How many of you are black men? I think there's 3 of us. So, I did all that to say, we focus on things that are so minimal. Because everybody was raising their hands from husband or significant other to being a parent, to being a grandparent, to being a child of someone, to being an educator, to being a friend. Black man. Right? And the reason why we do that is because for whatever reason, and I don't know why, actually I do know why, but I'm not going to talk about that right now because that's a whole other speech. But we choose to look at life through a flashlight. We focus on that little thing, like that giraffe. That giraffe was incredible. But we look at that, but we don't look at it through a floodlight where we're looking at everything. And so one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is, I'm going to ask you, when people bring up things around equity, inclusion, and belonging, around social and emotional wellness, around just making sure that people are good, look at it through the lens of a floodlight, not just a flashlight. Because, as you can see, we are way more similar than we are different. How many people heard the playlist today that you came in on? So most of those songs were around mid-'80s. That's when I went off to college. When I went off to college, I went to an all-black high school. About, strike that, 90% black, 10% white. And I had never heard a lot of those songs until I went to college. And when I went to college, I was like, this Bon Jovi stuff is lit. This is a banger, man, for real. But also, or I should say, concurrently, our friends and roommates, like my roommate Chrisabella, got turned on by Run DMC and Salt and Pepper just like y'all did. I saw y'all up in here, push it. I saw you. I saw you dancing. It's Clearfield County in the house. See? So, but that's because when we got exposed, we realized that we weren't that different. And so what I'm going to do is right now is teach you a word that people are afraid of that you don't have to be afraid of anymore. That word is these things right here, husband, father, grandfather, son, educator, friend, black man. Those are all things that make up Chuck, plus a gazillion other things. You know what that's called? Intersectionality. So when people say intersectionality, most people go, oh, intersectionality. It's just the things that we are. We all deal with intersectionality. We all have multiple things that we are. So again, one of the things that we talk about all the time is that anxiety is at its highest when knowledge is at its lowest. So as a kindergarten teacher by trade, I'm going to take your anxiety, because think about kindergarten. How many early childhood kindergarten type people are in the room here? Give them a round of applause. Because I'm not going to swear, but I'm going to almost swear. That ish is hard. And it's hard because they don't know jack. They know nothing. They're coming in with about a year's worth of memories. And you're expected to teach them all this stuff. And they only have a year of memory to be able to say, I can hook it onto this in my brain, I can hook this onto this in my brain, I can hook this. Because the older that you get, it's easier to teach. Because now they have more experiences. And so the thing is, guys, is that you're not in kindergarten. I mean, you might be in kindergarten when it comes to this work, but since you have so many experiences, you can grasp it really easily. This is not rocket science. It's just making sure that you're curious when you're listening. Make sense? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now, again, let me stay on top of my stuff here. Flashlights versus floodlights. I'm gonna go ahead here. This video I'm gonna play. This video, about 30-something years old. Take a look at this. So, I took some pictures up here, y'all, and saw everybody engrossed in the video. But I took the pictures for myself because when I watched that video and watched it a gazillion times, it still hits me like, this is bananas. This video is 35 years old, 36 years old, something like that. And all the things that you see there are still the same challenges that we have today. So now, what does that tell you? I'm not trying to tell you what to have your political leanings are or who you should believe your leader should be, but I'm here to tell you that people are up in here and somebody lying. If they're talking about they can fix it or they're going to fix it, because if it's continuous, we have these exact same challenges today with poverty, with all of the isms, racism, sexism, genderism, all this stuff. Somebody ain't telling the truth. And that takes us back to my boy Smoochie. We can't change the world, but we can put a dent in it. That's what our job is. And maybe, possibly, probably, those kids whose lives we have in our hands, those kids can be the ones that can change the world. If we all come together and we all touch 1,000 kids or so, think about how many kids we're touching and impacting. Does that make sense? So again, that's crazy. But I'm gonna tell you something that's even crazier. This would blew my mind because I just started this about 5 or 6 years ago. So you saw Dr. King in that video, right? And so I was thinking about this and it just dawned on me. I was like, first and foremost, most people think that the civil rights movement and everything was a long, long time ago. Dr. King was assassinated April 4th, 1968. That was 55 years ago. And so I am me, this dude right here, Chuck Herring. I am the first generation of black and brown people to be born as a first-class citizen in the United States. How do I know that? I know that because the Civil Rights Act went into law in 1964. The Voting Rights Act went into law in 1965. Dr. King was assassinated April 4th, 1968. The Fair Housing Rights Act went into effect April 11th, 1968. Those three acts, along with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, gave black and brown people first-class citizenship in the United States. Chuck Herring was born May 12, 1968. Not that long ago. Like I said, I'm a young old dude, right? Young old dude. So the things that I'm saying to you, they're so simple that a kindergartner could get it. And if you're listening with curiosity, you're getting it too. And therefore, when you speak to your people, when they come to you and they're talking to you and they're just like not making any sense, I don't want you to argue with them. I don't want you to have any, just any really just the conversations could be uncomfortable, but like uncivilized, that's the word I'm looking for. Any uncivilized conversations? We just want to have conversations. So I can help you understand that these are the reasons why we do the things we do as educators, because we're here to support and help all kids. You know what my school district are, and I'm sure that all of your school districts have a mission, it's something like this, and I'm paraphrasing. And in partnership with the community, we are here to help create and develop empathetic global citizens. We live in a global society. That's our job, to make sure that our kids, when they get out here and leave, when they go to college, when they get introduced to Bon Jovi for the first time, when they get introduced to Run DMC for the first time, they're ready, they're open, they're ready to learn from each other. That's what it's all about, right? So I know I'm way behind schedule. That's okay, guys. So we're really good at raising our awareness. So this is what we do, but we need to rewire our neurons. And this is a framework that my wife came up with. And so basically, all the things I just talked about, we already know. So we raise awareness. But we know what we're not so good at? Taking action. We all know these things are challenges, but the problems are so big. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, taking action. Then after you take action, what you should do is assess your progress, and then you should do it again. So it's the 4 A's. Awareness, action, assess, again. And that's the way that we try to get through these challenges. That's what we do. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about DEI. What is DEI? So many people think it's mostly about race. It's mostly about race. And to be perfectly frank, it is about race. About no other more times than it's about anything else. Seriously, if it's a pizza and all slices are equal, let's say it's a 12-slice pizza, race is about 1/12 of it. The rest of it's so much more. And I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to talk to you about DEI without even talking to you about race. So let's go ahead and say this. How many of you, we know that women statistically make about 2/3 or 3/4 of what a man makes in the United States, right? We know that. So that's not a racial issue. That's actually what we would call an equity issue, right? So if we call that an equity issue, do you know why women make 2/3 or 3/4 of what a man makes? That's okay, I'm gonna tell you. So how many of you seen or heard Hamilton? Soundtrack, saw it, anything? Okay, great. So in Hamilton, there's a song. It's called The Room Where It Happens. You know why women make 3/4 of what a man makes? Y'all wasn't in the room. If you was in the room, would you be like, I'll make 75 cents? You wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, heck no. I'm about to curse again, I'm sorry. No, I am not going to take the 75 cents, but since you weren't in the room where it happened, that's what's going on, right? So that's an inclusion issue. Guess what I just talked about, y'all? I talked about equity, I talked about inclusion, and I still haven't talked about race. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's talk about diversity. So there's another 2 black guys in here. I see three or four black women in here, some other nationalities. So there's maybe about 10 people of color in this room. And the rest of the room is white. So people would say, take out those 10 people of color. We're all gone. They would say, there's no diversity in this room. And I would be like, you are a lie. Because there's a gang of diversity up in this room. First of all, I just said it. We have diversity of genders. We have diversity of socioeconomic status. We have diversity of religion. We have diversity of abilities. We just have so much diversity that we don't even talk about the diversity, because the only diversity we look at is the diversity we can see through our flashlight. Everybody's like this. There's a black person. There's a brown person. But nobody's looking at the other diversities. Those are invisible diversities. People can hide those. But if we look at it through a floodlight, then we can see. Does that make sense? This makes sense. Again, kindergarten dude, not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I went to the school called Wilkinsburg, and when I was in Wilkinsburg, oh, you know Wilkinsburg, it was 501 out of 501. That's where we ranked. Guess what else? I had a 2.3 GPA, so I'm mediocre in the worst performing school district in the state, and now I'm standing up here in front of all you amazing educators. Ain't God good? Anyway. So let's talk about this a little bit. So we have our unconscious biases. And those unconscious biases are really what causes us to look at the world through a flashlight. Because we have to make these snap decisions. Boom, 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 boom. We're already, all right, I have this mapped in my brain. This is what's supposed to happen here. This is what's supposed to happen here, so on and so forth. So unconscious bias is the belief that is not grounded in facts about someone or a particular group of individuals. For example, there aren't any attorneys in this room, are there? All right, no attorneys. We're going to talk about attorneys. The truth is that some people have biases against lawyers because they are arrogant, dishonest, and greedy. But the truth is some lawyers are those things, but most lawyers help clients solve complex problems, assess and mitigate their clients' present and future risks, and advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. That sounds an awful lot like who? Say it. Teachers. Sounds an awful lot like teachers. And for the last few years, we've been called some negative names. We have been. But we know what we're here to do. We're here to support and help our students. But what happens is unconscious takes the sum and turns it into the most. Because some teachers are horrible. You work with them. You know it's true. But most are pretty good. Most are. And that's with any profession. So that's what we have to keep in our forefront of our mind. We can't look at the world through a flashlight. We really have to turn on our what? Yes, thank you. So this is unconscious bias at work. Actually, I'll skip this one. You guys will check this out another time. We'll skip this video. Go to the next one. So what does making the unconscious conscious mean to you? Just think about that for a minute. So you have to take the unconscious biases that we have, and we all have them. I'm gonna give you a story real quick, shorter than the video. Where my wife and I live, we have a lot of Asian people who live where we live. And we lived there for 24 years. And our plan goes out into like a major road. There's a major road that's like, you know, the speed limit's like 45 miles an hour. But in our plan, it's like 15 miles an hour. But when we've been there for 24 years, 25 years, and there have been 2 fatal accidents at that corner. And both of those accidents, there were an Asian person was the cause of that accident. So my stupid brain was saying, daggone it, those Asian people can't drive a lick. But then, when you take it and you flip it around and you say to yourself, Chuck, that is one of the most asinine statements that you could ever make. Because it's 2 Asian people out of, there's 1.4 Asian people who live in India alone, 1.2 billion Asian people who live in China alone. So right now, I'm just going to say 2.5 billion Asian people in 2 countries. And you're going to take 2 and say, they can't drive. Definitely looking at life through a flashlight. So we want to turn on our floodlights. Make sense? Because unconscious bias is everywhere. We all have unconscious bias. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't help, because it does help in some things. You have an unconscious bias about, my unconscious bias about anything with ranch dressing on it. I think it's terrible. My family loves it. And I'm like, they're weird. But so we all have one, okay? Let's go ahead and do this here. Handprints, heel footprints. So this is something that came along. These are some of my kiddos when we were in hybrid during the pandemic. I love these pictures. Let me get some more. We're actually doing this. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, November 17th, Friday, November 17th, please come. We would love for you to put your handprint up on one of our windows. We're doing it that whole day. So that's Handprints, Heel Footprints Day. So this happened, shucks. I want to say it was like 2016 or so. I was in a conference or in a room smaller than this, but maybe about 50 or 60 people. And typically when I go to these spaces, I'm one of or the only person of color in the space. So, and that's actually me in that space. It's funny, they have a picture of me. And Greg Norris came. Greg Norris is a Harvard and MIT instructor. Greg is also, he's an environmentalist. And he came in and he talked about handprints. He talked about footprints, environmental footprints, water, carbon, all that other stuff. And he said that research shows that the reason why people don't do anything about, or as much as they can about the environment, is because they feel like the problem is too big. They didn't have the smoochy mindset. They didn't think about putting a dent in it, but I did, right? And so when I said to myself, wow, footprints. And a footprint is an intentional or unintentional act that causes harm to someone or something. And let me just go ahead and just elevate a word up to you. And that word is unintentional. Oftentimes, we talk about intent versus impact. Most people's intentions are to do the right thing, to do good things. But sometimes we do things that are unintentionally harmful. So the footprints, he talked about that, and we unintentionally did things to the environment. We unintentionally do things to each other, right? And so I was like, So research shows that people don't do anything because the problem is so big. And I was just ruminating that was in my mind. So I raised my hand, and I said to him, in front of all these people, only black guy there, I said, do you think that that's why there's still racism? And the whole room went, right? The whole room I said, racism, and I'm just going to stop at racism. I said sexism, xenophobia, anti-Islamic, it's like this anti-Semitism, all the antis and isms. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, that people see the problem as being too big, that they feel like they can't do anything about it. And he's like, I never thought about that. So, we're all at conference today. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to meet somebody and you're going to say, hey, great, we're going to connect. And we're going to get together and we're going to meet up. And you never see them again. So Greg said that to me. He said, you know what, let's talk about this. And let me get your information. And we're going to meet up. And we did connect. We did, and we're friends to this day. So Greg, but he talked about that, and then he said something that just really resonated with me, that made me think of this whole thing from a different light. He said, we also provide handprints. And an equity inclusion handprint is an intentional act to offset or overcome a footprint. Now take a look at that. That's my school. That was about a month ago. A month ago on Friday, October 7th, we had a Dress Like Your Culture Day. We have about 3,500 kids in our school. We had about 1,000 kids dressed like their culture. And a lot of people were like, well, what if I'm Irish and Italian and German? And I was like, pick one. Pick one. Doesn't matter, you're all of these things. You know why? Because those are your intersections. Those are your intersections. Pick one. So kids were like, okay, so you see these kids in their formal attire. I'm all the way up top there. You don't see me, but I have on my Wakanda. I was there because I don't know what part of Africa I'm from. I'm from Africa, so I was like, I'm Wakandan. I'm Prince T'Chaka. So, but the kids who like asked me those questions, they were like, USA, perfect. Kiss me, I'm Irish, perfect. You know, everybody loves French people, perfect. You know, so it doesn't matter. Just dress like your culture, represent. And so people said, when we first did, this is our second year. First year we had about 400 or 500 kids. This year we had about 1,000. So the first year we did it, everybody was so worried. What if kids come to school dressed in Nazi uniforms? We send them home. What if kids come to school dressed in Confederate uniforms? We send them home. Why? Because that's not your culture. Nazism, Nazis went to war against the United States. Confederates went to war against the United States. We're all US citizens. We're not part of the Confederate States of America. We're not part of the, whatever they called the German, back when Hitler was in charge. We are US citizens. So guess what? That's not a culture that we're accepting here at our school. Point blank, period. And everybody was like, oh, okay. And they were really afraid, and the kids came in and showed up and showed out. From K through 12. Phenomenal. Actually, we have some of our little ones in there. You see them down in the front? They just happened to be in a high school that day. Get them in the picture. So Shout, student group that we started. I was going to tell you all about it, but we actually have this amazing video that people talked about Shout. This is what we're going to do right now, show you this video. This is South Fayette.
South Fayette is growing. An influx of families has brought a wealth of new perspectives to the district. Students at South Fayette now have roots from countries and cultures all over the world. It is against that backdrop that two students sought out a like-minded educator to form Shout, a student-led leadership organization dedicated to creating a diverse, inclusive, and equitable environment for everyone.
So Shout really started all the way back in around August of 2019. Yamin Yapuri and Berfine Birkin. And they came together and they said, we need a club about, diversity, student leadership. And they got matched with Dr. Herring, who also had kind of that same vision.
I think Shout as itself stands as a symbol like that anyone, any group of students can come together, any school, any community can come together, foster great conversations. Going through Shout has made me a better person. Everyone in that room will tell you the same thing.
Shout, or Social Handprints Overcoming Unjust Treatments, promotes diversity, inclusion, education, and positivity through a series of projects and programs. Handprints Heal Footprints, Religions of the World, Dress Like Your Culture Day, and the Uncommon Conference each spread a message of inclusion and work to eradicate hate in the community.
Everyone, all faiths, all people of color, everyone can come together and unite.
I think having that diverse, knowing different cultures, knowing different religion background helps you be a better person in the workforce and also a better person who can be a role model in the future.
These programs are making an impact. The Uncommon Conference continues to expand, while Dress Like Your Culture Day had a higher participation rate than expected.
So it was really cool. It was really cool to see all the different cultures. Cool to represent my culture.
Shout has rapidly expanded from a small group to over 40 high school and middle school students, with sister programs at other Western Pennsylvania districts.
Since we're one of the larger groups who are coming into the summit, we'll be able to draw more awareness. We have the gift of social media, spread the news, and I want them to take advantage of all the resources they have. A lot of schools don't really have this chance like we do.
I want to establish relationships with the people who are changing things, like our mayor, our representatives.
Every project Shout takes on is part of its quest to eradicate hate.
It's been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to see what else it has in store.
As South Fayette students said during the Uncommon Conference, we all live on the same planet, but we live in different worlds on that planet. When we visit other worlds, it helps us to learn and become better people. Each of us needs all of us to become the best of us. That is why we all shout.
So, I don't know if you've heard, but the United Nations hosts their annual Eradicate Hate Global Summit in Pittsburgh every year. This is the third year that it happened. And they asked me and my students to be there as ambassadors for the world, for the work that we're doing. Oh, thank you. And so these kids are remarkable. And this all came about from 5 years ago last week was the 5th anniversary of the Tree of Life Synagogue shooting. And so our kids were there and we met the families of the victims of the shootings, I'm sorry. And they were so impressed with our students that a week ago Monday, some of the family members came out to attend one of our meetings, and they asked what the takeaways were from that, from a teenager's perspective. You know, because they saw it and they were like, well, the kids really blew my mind. I mean, I know that they're sharp. I mean, I'm with them all the time. So it's like, I just get out of the way. The kids make me look good. I get all these awards and stuff, and it's like, it's not me, but thank you, I'll take it. So, but they said two things that really stuck out to me. Number one, they shared that they saw how powerful they were in another setting. Like, they know how powerful they are kind of in our space because they can see the changes over the last 5 years, but they saw like there were other kids, because the first thing that happened when the Tree of Life shooting occurred was that there were teenagers from the local high school, Alderdice High School in Pittsburgh, and they got together on social media and they pulled a vigil together that night with thousands and thousands of people there just as a gathering space to be able to support one another, because a lot of them knew the grandchildren and the children of the people who were killed in that incident, right? And so that happened. So they realized that the work that they're doing is so much bigger than the work they're doing in our buildings. Because we have other chapters and stuff as well. But they never really get a chance to see that. But hearing that from that conference, that motivated them. So that was one takeaway. But the second takeaway really blew my mind. And I didn't know this until we went to the Eradicate Hate Conference. The first group of adults that organized and facilitated meals, mental health professionals, all kinds of stuff to support the people from the synagogue and the entire Jewish community of Pittsburgh was the Islamic Center of Pittsburgh. And so this is right, we had this meeting right about a week or two after the Hamas-Israel war started. And as you can see, Muslim kids, Jewish kids, they're all in this thing together. And what they really realized is that these are really just governments that are angry with one another, but the people are really friends and family. And they want to make sure that everyone knows that. So at every opportunity, that's one of the things they put out there. Muslims and Jews don't hate each other. Hindus and Muslims don't hate each other. If you go to India, the government of India now is trying to make India a Hindu state. It was supposed to be I always confuse it, like a secular state. It's supposed to be a secular state, no religion at all. But they're trying to make it a Hindu state. So now they are really doing major damage, killing, moving out, harassing, doing all kinds of stuff to Muslim people in India. But the two people who started Shout with me, a Hindu young lady and a Muslim young lady, and they were best friends. They still are. They're at the University of Pittsburgh as seniors right now. So again, it's not the people, it's the government. And so we have to look at the world through a what? Through a floodlight. So we can really see and not just look at it, well, these people don't like these people, so it's all the people. It's always about power, money, control. That's what it's about. And then people start feeding you with a bunch of different stuff. So we're going to go ahead. Let me see how much time I got left. Skip over this video. Oh, I'm not going to skip this. This is the most important thing in education. How many of you have ever seen this? How many of you have this hanging up in your classroom? I see you, definitely. Always keep this up here. This is the thing that when I first went to teacher school way back in the day, before a lot of you in here were born, this was the most important thing to me. And I was like, how do we expect kids to get to self-actualization? And then I really started breaking it down. We were really good at school with physiological stuff. We give them shelter. Kids need clothes and food. We make sure they have that. We're pretty good to okay at safety. I mean, you know, at least physical safety. You know, some schools have more fights than others, but we've gotten a lot better at that over the years. But where we really stink is that love and belonging. Most kids come to school, and to quote Thoreau, they're living lives of quiet desperation. Why do you think, like, when you hear the news where you have the cheerleader or the captain of the football team and they've committed suicide? Because even though they're a part, they're not a part. They don't feel like they belong. They don't feel like that this is their space. They don't feel like there are people that will miss them if they're gone. They don't feel like any of those things. That love and belonging is so huge. And if we're not good at that, how do we expect to get kids to self-actualization? Now, I've had this a form of this poster in my classroom since I started teaching back in the early 90s, right? It's in my office right now. And I was like, I should write a book about this. But these bums wrote a book. I already gave you the answer, so you don't have to buy it. So, no, seriously. It's a great book by Cobb and Crown Apple. I forgot what it's called, but you can look it up, Cobb and Crown Apple. But belonging is the missing ingredient. And this is another lesson. Jump on your ideas when they come on you, because they'll just pass you and go to somebody else. So the DEI lesson filtering plan. How many of you heard of our CRSE competencies? Anybody heard of the CRSE competencies? Well, you better learn about them, because you're going to have to know them by next year. Like, everybody's supposed to be learning about them this year, and you're supposed to be implementing them next year. That's coming from the PDE. That's coming from, actually, I was really shocked that the legislation passed it, but they did. Phenomenal. And we have somebody in the room to thank for that. I'm going to say her name, Dr. Nicole Holland-Sims. I'm clapping for you, girl. It's one of the reasons why we did this, absolutely. So, South Fayette, though, I'm very honored to say we're a big part of those CRAC competencies. Two things that we do that you can take home right now that you can use are a part of those competencies. Number one, our DEI lesson filtering tool. And this is how it works. It's our 4-question tool that helps us mitigate curriculum-based trauma. So, what do we do to help mitigate curriculum-based trauma? We ask, is this experience directly connected to and critical to what I'm teaching? That's one question. The second question, does this experience value the dignity of all community members? So is it like, we're not coming in here trying to teach you left, right, we're not trying to, change your politics, trying to change your religion, trying to change anything. We're just pretty much straight down the middle, trying to make sure that we're coming at you neutral, but you get the proper information. Then it's like, is there anything about this that makes you think that somebody should look at this? Yeah, if there is, bring it up, run it up the chain, run it up the chain. We're here to help support you as educators, and we're here to help support our students. So, number 3, what steps have been taken to create a safe space in the classroom? Do you have ground rules? Do you have a way for your students to be able to have off-ramps and know when things get a little bit heated, and to have on-ramps when they can go, they get themselves together? And that also works for you as educators. You might need an off-ramp. It's like this, I'm really uncomfortable. We teach a book called Just Mercy. Anybody familiar with Just Mercy? So Just Mercy, it was a big to-do, a lot of people were saying, and I was like, what's the big to-do about Just Mercy? It's Mockingbird where the guy actually lives. I'm like, for real, that's the book. It's the same setting. It's Monroeville, Alabama. It was the same story. A black man is accused of raping and killing a white woman. Mockingbird, he didn't do it, but he got killed anyway. He was killed. And Just Mercy, the guy got off and lived for another 15, 20 years. Remarkable, right? But people were like, we don't want to do this. Like, okay, I don't understand it. But that's just my thing. But there's some talk in there. There's some talk in there about miscarriages and different things like that triggered some of our faculty members because they've actually experienced that. So it's like, you don't have to talk about that. That's not necessary to the story, so you don't have to teach that. That's an off-ramp for you. But if we're trying to go ahead and make sure that the kids understand text-dependent analyses and how to, get the content of what the story is about, then those are the things that we're doing. That right there, you can have an off-ramp and on-ramp. Those are things that we all should have, right? So I have those. So, what steps have you taken to create a safe space? This is what our steps. This is it. Ground rules for brave conversations. And my students, the Shout students, help create these. So these are it. Number one, assume positive intent. These are on PDE's website now. So the CRSC, Chapter 49, you can find it. It is there. So, but assume positive intent. Own the impact of your words. Most times people assume positive intent. I mean, well, they say my intentions weren't bad, but then they do something and they don't own the impact of it. And it's like, dude, you did it. Come on. What's wrong? You did it. I did it. I'm sorry. Right? Ouch and oops moments. This is big. Ouch moments when people, when I say something that might land on you the wrong way. You could just say ouch. We'll unpack it. If I know that something's coming out of my mouth the wrong way, I can say oops, and then you won't beat me up about it because I know that I screwed up. Really simple stuff. Listening with curiosity, we talked about that. Personal stories shared here, stay here, but what's learned here should leave here. Speak your truth with dignity and respect for others. This one right here, no blame, no shame, no guilt. This is the big one. This is the one that really saved me, and I'm going to get to that in a second. And expect and accept the lack of closure. Those are our ground rules. That's the way we keep a safe space at South Fayette. You might have another way, but please steal this. Use this. Use these things. Our fourth question of our DEI lesson filtering tool. If you were the student and or the parent of the student experiencing this lesson, what feelings might it trigger? A lot of people don't put themselves in other people's feet, their shoes. I can't talk today. So think about that. Real simple stuff. And like I said, this is what we do. Options, we either keep it because it's great, we modify it because it's great but it needs a little bit of tweaking, we remove it, why is this even in here? And if you ask for help, and if it elevates up to me, they typically go to their team. Actually, you do this as a team in groups of 2 or 3, and then, because we all have blind spots, and so we look at it together, and then if it's still we have a question, then we'll elevate it up to the principal. If the principal can't help you, then they elevate it up to me, and then I'll say, we'll just table this till next year. It's real simple, right? But we'll look at it and we'll see how we can tweak it like at a later date. I'm going to skip over this. This is a great video, but I'm sorry I can't show it to you. I'm going to give you this trigger warning. Trigger warning. We're about to dive into a subject that may make some feel discomfort. Remember to expect to experience discomfort. We're still on this roller coaster. Handprints are sometimes uncomfortable, but they're definitely worth it. Please lean into the discomfort because this is where the progress in understanding each other happens, okay? So, how many knows the movie, Do You Know, I Know What You Did Last Summer? So my question is, do you know what I did last summer? Well, actually, it's summer 22. I took about a gazillion questions on critical race theory. A gazillion. Literally, I counted them. I was like, what? And no, seriously, I'm getting these emails and calls and stuff. And I'm like, first it hit me with like, what are they talking about? What are they talking? I had no idea what was going on in the zeitgeist of certain worlds, right? Because we all live on the same planet, but we live in different worlds on this planet. And I had no idea that people were talking about this critical race theory thing. And they were like, are you teaching critical race theory? And they're like, are you teaching the Black agenda? And I was like, what's that? Right? I mean, I was literally, at the time, I was the only Black person who worked in this whole district with 600 employees. I'm like, I'm teaching the Black agenda? Me? I don't even know what it is, but if I was, do you think all these white people would let me teach the Black agenda? Probably not. So, that whole no blame, no shame, no guilt. This is what we talked about. So it really is a thing called false evidence appearing real. It's fear. People, they just trade in fear. It's like a stock market. They want to get you riled up about anything. There is just something that's like, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. And what did we say at the very beginning? Gaston, we don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us. But anytime you're afraid of something, have you ever been afraid of something and then you wound up doing the thing that you were afraid of? And then you realize, I don't know why I was even afraid of this stupid thing. Why am I afraid of this? Because most things are more scary in your brain than they are in actuality. So the fear gets ramped up. So what I started doing was, once I realized that now we have about, it's like 30% people of color in my district, 70% Caucasian people. But it was 100% Caucasian people who were reaching out to me. So I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. And so I realized, so they would call me, I would email them back. They would call me, no, I wouldn't email them back, strike that. They would call me, I would call them back and then email them and say, hey, I just left you a voicemail. Because people were looking to try to take an email and parse my words. And I'm like, that's not what I said. So I'm like, we're gonna have a conversation. So finally, I would get people on the phone. And once I would get them on the phone, I would say to them, so it seems to me that you're upset because you think that school was teaching your kids to not like being white. I mean, we're gonna just go ahead and get right to the elephant in the room. And I'm gonna tell you something. You don't have to worry about that here. And they're like, why is that? And they're like, up here at 10. Why is that? I'm like, because we have these things called the ground rules. And one of our ground rules is no blame, no shame, no guilt. What does that mean? That means that you're not to take any blame, shame, or guilt for anything that's happened in the past. However, there's always a however. However, you have to admit that things that have happened in the past are still having a negative impact on some people today. That would take them from about 10 to an 8, right? But that's okay. You're coming closer to me. You're coming closer to me. So then I would say, so I didn't come up with the term race. You didn't come up with the term race. But I know that I was told I was a race. I was told that I was black. And you were told that you were a race, that you were told you were white. Am I right? Again, kindergarten teacher. And so when I would say that, they're like, yeah. And I say, okay. So I'm going to say a word, and this word's going to trigger you. Are you ready to be triggered? Okay, we're going to trigger you. It's going to take you about 4 seconds to get over this trigger. We trigger kids all the time. So that's how we learn. If you're ready to be triggered, I'm going to trigger you. You're like, okay, I'm ready. And I say, all right, the word is anti-racist. But all that means is that you're against racism. You are against racism, right? I have yet to have anybody say, I am for racism. So that's the thing, right? Now we're here, and they get there and they start thinking about their thoughts, not through the flashlight that they've been looking at it, but through the floodlight. They're like, oh. And then I start getting the apologies. And then I say, oh, wait a minute. If we profess to be anti-racist as a school community, meaning against racism, that means that we're against racism on behalf of your child, the black children, the Middle Eastern children, the South Asian children, all kids. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? That's all about that community of belonging. And so then, because I'm an educator, I say, they're like, thanks, Dr. Herring, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, can't go yet. I need you to do some homework. So I gave them homework. And again, these are things that you can do. So I gave them the homework. You know what the homework was? Because everybody, I think, in that community, I don't live there, but in that community lives in a cul-de-sac. I know they don't, but I feel like it. It's just by unconscious bias. So when you're in a cul-de-sac and you're outside with your neighbors and you're having an adult beverage while the kids are riding bikes and everything else, and this topic comes up, which it inevitably will, I need you to tell them that it's hogwash. And once you tell them that it's hogwash, if you can't explain it like I explained it to you, tell them to call me. And if you see it online anywhere, say, that's hogwash. Talk to Dr. Herring. And it went from this to falling off the table. It was done. The community got involved. People got involved. You see the stuff that's going on in the district. Everybody is like, our kids love this place. It's so cool. We have all this great stuff happening. So that's how we did it. No blame, no shame, no guilt. Make sense? Okay, great. So I got to hurry up. I was told I got 3 minutes left. Let me go ahead and go through this real quick. The greatest equity, inclusion, and belonging mission statement ever. This right here is the dopest thing ever. And I'm going to give it up to the white dudes. Any white dudes in this room? White guys? White guys? I see one white guy in the back too. Oh, we got a whole bunch of white guys. Okay, good stuff. White dudes, I'm talking to you specifically. Y'all been catching hell over the last 10 years or so. Everybody is like, it's the white guy's fault. It's the white guy's fault. It's the white guy's fault. And I'm going to tell people this is hogwash. And the reason why I'm going to tell you this is because y'all came up with the dopest DEIB statement ever. And it is this. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense and promote the general welfare, to ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. What does that mean? That means, guess what y'all could have said? Y'all could have said, we, the wealthy, landowning white dudes. Y'all could have said that. But no, you said we the people. In order to form a more perfect, which means progress, not perfection. We're always getting better. And then it says, to establish justice, not just criminal justice, not just environmental justice, but also social justice and other justices to ensure domestic tranquility. That is that sense of belonging. Everybody belongs here. To provide for the common defense. You know what that means? That means that I got you and you got me. Somebody's coming, I got you, bruh. You got me? I know you do. To promote the general welfare. Hey, you need a cup of sugar? You need some food? Great. Oh, I'm sorry, my family needs some. Thank you, I appreciate it. And to ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, meaning us in this room, and our posterity, our future generations. Give that a round of applause right there. That comes from some not so great, but very great at the same time white dudes. For real. So think about that. Think about that. You guys are doing an amazing job. What begins with A and ends with I? I'm going to tell you. We don't have a lot of time. The Pledge of Allegiance. What begins with A, I, and ends with R. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See, people get upset about the flag, and that's one of the most asinine things I've ever seen. Because the flag doesn't mean anything. The flag doesn't mean anything. The flag is a representation of everybody in this room. So what the flag means is that there are 350 million Americans. I can't say, well, I pledge allegiance to Ray and Kirk and Mary and Susie, and you can't pledge allegiance to all those people. So you just say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And that flag represents we the people. That makes sense? So those are the simple things that I wanted to give you. I wanted to give you those things, and I'm going to go ahead, skip over that, and I'm going to close it out with this. Your journey to becoming extraordinary in the EIB space will be heavy lifting and take time. But guess what, y'all? You guys have graduated from 5th grade. I'm taking you from kindergarten to 5th grade. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. It's progress, it's not perfection. See that right there? On your journey to creating a space where every scholar, you're still scholars, your students are scholars, can thrive. It doesn't matter whether you fly, run, walk, or crawl, as long as you keep moving forward. RAS. Do you know what RAS stands for? That's a neuropsychological term, reticular activation system. And what that means is, real simple, kindergarten stuff. You see a car, you want to go buy that car. You buy that car. Before you bought it, you never saw it anywhere. You drive it off the lot, you see 50,000 of them. That's your reticular activation system. So you make sure that now, once a mind has been expanded, it can never go back to its original size. I've just expanded your mind. You've had a great time. You've had a lot of fun. But now when you go back into these spaces and people are talking crazy to you, you have some language to be able to say, hey, it's all good. We're good. Trust me on this. Let me tell you how this is going to work. Let me show you. Break it down. Use your pedagogical skills to make this stuff happen. And with that, I'm Chuck Herring. Thank you very much. It's been an amazing honor.